War Rapport family, it's your boy Mike G here with my guy Ike Jones.
Yo.
And we got a special guest for you guys today. Auburn tight end from 2001 to 2005, member of the 04 undefeated team, Cooper Wallace. Cooper, thanks for joining us, man.
Man, appreciate y'all having me.
So, Cooper, we appreciate you joining us today. You're our first tight end.
Yep.
You're our first tight end. And news down on the plains, we have a new coach and a new offense coming in that we hope utilizes tight ends.
Please utilize the tight ends. Too many talented tight ends there to not do it.
Now, you were a talented tight end, but I want to start this interview with your journey to Auburn and what your recruitment process was like as a tight end. Like, what was your process like and what drew you to Auburn?
I wanted to play college football, but it wasn't like my number one goal in life. I was just playing high school football to have fun. A friend of mine was always an Auburn fan. He was like, hey, man, let's go to Auburn's football camp right before the summer before our senior football season. I was like, all right, cool. That sounds fun. So go to Auburn football camp. And when we get there, I don't know if y'all remember the old bubble, little 30-yard bubble?
I do.
So we start out in the bubble, and they're like, hey, man, if you want a linebacker, stand up. And I played linebacker in high school. And that, honestly, my mentality, I'm more of a defensive guy. And so I stood up, and then I was like, man, maybe I should do tight end because I also played tight end in high school. So I sat down right before they told me to go to the linebacker group. And when they got to tight ends, I stood up. I'm like, all right, go over there. Man, it was like a 3-day camp or something like that. And Auburn was not on the radar. I wasn't on their radar. And we were doing 7-on-7 just in shorts and T-shirts. I was not fat. I mean, I'm not the best athlete in the world.
Right.
I ain't fast. I can't jump. And so we ran 40s, and I hadn't impressed nobody. And we were doing 7-on-7. And we're reading cards. You remember Coach Doug, big guy that played for the Cowboys?
I do.
What was his last name?
I
can never remember his last name.
Barfield?
Well, anyway, he's the biggest human being I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm this little kid from Nashville, got a little private school. Like, I'm pretty weak. And, man, Doug is over there showing us cards. And I'm like, oh, my God, this guy's intimidating. So I go out, I run a route. And, man, one of the linebackers steps out and just knocks the dog crap out of me. I mean, on the back of my head, like, decleated me. No pads or anything. And so I'm like, man, golly, that was intense. And then big Coach Doug, I mean, that guy had to weigh 350 pounds. He's enormous. He's like, go, what's up, man? He got me all kind of fired up in the huddle. You gonna let that guy treat you like that? I'm just like, man, I can't believe that kid just did that to me. And so he puts up the card. I don't know what the route was, but so I released 7-on-7, ran straight at that linebacker and knocked his butt out and knocked him on the back of his head. And then they had to break us up. But that's the only thing good I did at camp. And Coach Mazzoni saw that. And he thought that was enough. And so he told me when I was at the Combine in 2000, technically, I guess, February 2006, Coach Mazzoni said he was telling Tubbs, hey, man, we need to offer this kid. And Tubbs was like, man, no way. And if y'all could have seen me, you would understand Tuberville saying no way. But Mazzoni said, I'll put my name on it. Let's do it. And, man, I got offered 2 weeks after that. I talked to my high school coach about it, and he was like, listen, man, is there anything you don't like about Auburn? I was like, nah, I know some people that go there. It seems cool. And he was like, well, listen, no offense. You should accept that offer right now because they're going to go find a guy that looks a whole lot better than you. He says, so if you're cool with going to Auburn, you should take that.
Oh, man.
And so I committed to Auburn before my senior year of football in high school. And it was all from that one play.
Oh,
Coach Mazzoni took a chance on me.
That's an awesome story. Do you remember who the kid was that was the linebacker that you decleated?
And I don't remember. He was a big guy. He was a Husky guy. Like, I'm not sure that guy ever played linebacker in college.
Okay, I just wondered if he might have made his
he
way to
wasn't-
Auburn too, and he was there, and y'all
I don't think
friends.
so. You know,
Was this the
our
beginning of a
linebackers
friendship?
yeah, we had like A.T. Williams and Travis T. Will. Like, this guy was like a big Husky guy. This guy probably played D-line in college if he made it to college, but man, he knocked the dog crap out of me. And I looked pretty weak, but I had a side that once you flip the switch.
No, but that's important. So talk to me a little bit then about that transition though from now you're on the plains and trying to figure it all out. Like you split time at linebacker and tight end, like just figuring out how to be in place and what you needed to do to get into a spot where you're getting into the rotation. Talk to me about that transition for you both mentally and physically.
So when we came in, we were the last class, the recruiting class that came in 2001. We were the last group that ever had freshman two-a-days. So we had two-a-days before two-a-days.
Right.
So there was I don't know how many of us, 20, 25 people come into class.
Mm-hmm.
So about 25 of us have two-a-days, full pads, all the coaches, and no veterans. And so, I mean, they about killed us. And so I went against Jake Slaughter all the time. He's from Brentwood. He went to Brentwood Academy. He was the fullback. He was with Coach Witt. And so, man, they beat us down for, I don't know how long freshman two-a-days were, maybe 4 or 5 days. They destroyed us. And then all the, regular players came in. And, man, my mindset was just, I'm going to earn everything I get. They had told me I was going to redshirt early on. Just honestly, I was like, I looked pretty junky, man. I didn't have a good body. I was slow. I probably weighed 210 maybe. I was tiny. And then, so I was like, all right, I'm cool with redshirting. And so, honestly, so they used me as a scout team for the linebackers for most of 2 days once all the good guys got in. Right. That's when Mark Brown was there, and he was a beast. So, man, Coach Witt had me running isolations on Mark Brown, just one-on-one, which is damn near a death wish.
Right.
So, but I kind of earned my respect during those little periods where it was, be me and Mark Brown, and he's knocking the crap out of me. I blew his helmet off at one point.
Okay.
But honestly, that's the only reason I was any good at football is because I wasn't, I'm leading with my head and I'm hitting people right there. And that's kind of, that was my thing. So, my mindset was earn it. And then after 2 days, when I started 2 days, my number was, they gave me number 98. You ain't never seen a tight end with number 98.
I say it's a defensive lineman number, ain't it?
Right. So I had no respect. And then my practice jersey didn't even look like the other practice jerseys. It had like extra big holes. Like the mesh was bigger than the other jerseys. I mean, it was bad. And then after about 2 weeks, they switched me to 89 and gave me a regular practice jersey. And then after camp, they planned on not redshirting me. And I talked to Tuberville, and we talked about it for a while. And he was like, man, I think maybe you should redshirt. And I was like, I'm cool with whatever you want me to do. And I ended up redshirting, which was good for me. But, my mindset was just shut my mouth, earn it, and listen to the coaches.
So Cooper, I want to talk about the redshirt experience for a second.
Yeah.
Because
let's talk about that.
Oh man, let me tell you. So kids don't redshirt a whole lot anymore, except for if there's injuries or there's some other reason that they're redshirting them for the most part. Now, when you came in 2001, we had two pretty good tight ends in Robert Johnson, right, and Lorenzo Diamond.
Yep.
Right. So those guys did all right at Auburn. I remember Robert Johnson left early his junior year to go pro to test the draft. And so you came up behind those guys. As what value did you get from that redshirt season coming up behind those guys, and then eventually starting for a undefeated team in 04.
So, I mean, personally, I was kind of I guess some people say late bloomer. And so it was good for me to get get with Yox for a year. Like I had all the stuff on the inside. Like I'll run through a brick wall. Like, I mean, I get, wasn't the smartest guy in the world. Like coach could have been like, man, go run into that moving car. And I'd have been like, I'm doing it. Like I was kind of that guy. Like, but I had all that, but I just like physically, I was still pretty weak. So it was good for me just to get another year to mature and grow and get a little stronger. And man, I remember Lorenzo Diamond was awesome. Like one of the best veterans that you could be under, helped me out all the time. Robert Johnson was awesome. Obviously I would look at him though, and he was probably 6'7" or 6'6".
Yeah.
Like
6'8", I thought he was.
That dude was a specimen.
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking at him like, damn, man, I hope I can make the cut. Like, I don't look like him. But the redshirt year gave me time to just like mature, get a little bigger, get stronger, so that I could really, I was all good. Put me at fullback or put me in motion, I'll run through the hole and knock anybody as hard as anyone. But once I got on the line and was going, head to head against some of the D linemen, they would manhandle me. So it was just good for me to grow up a little bit. But the funny thing is, while I was there, a lot of us redshirted. Mm-hmm. And then when Tommy Trott's class came in, this is the first time I remember it. He was probably 2 years. Was he 2 years behind me, maybe? He's 1 or 2 years behind me. So that was like the first group of kids that came in, and society was just kind of changing. Like they didn't make them live at Sewell Hall, which was the trashiest place ever. You know what I'm saying? Like those kids didn't have to live at Sewell Hall. If they were told they were redshirted, they would quit or transfer or leave.
Right.
I mean, it was just like you could just tell how the generation of kids was different. And when they told me us to redshirt, we were like, hey, whatever you say. And then just slowly, as society's evolving and kids are changing, like it just got kind of different.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. A lot of kids don't redshirt now, and they don't want to.
So you mentioned fullback, and we interviewed Coach Yox, and one of his the stories he told us about you were about the time that you filled in at fullback and did pretty well. He was very impressed with your ability to be able to do that. Can you talk a little bit about the mindset that you need to be able to just do whatever's asked of you? I mean, you played defense in high school, right? You come in, they move you to tight end. Was it Brandon Johnson, I think, was the fullback at some point when you got hurt, right? And then you fill in for a guy like that. What kind of mindset do you need to, by your own words, to be maybe not the fastest or the biggest guy on the field, but it sounded like to me you had the most heart, right? Where does that come from? Where does the guy find that?
I don't know, man. I'm the youngest of 3 boys. Wasn't a super tough kid. My brothers, man, I know people that were like, man, my brother, we used to get in like full on fist fights and like MMA fights. I'm like, man, we did not do that, but they picked on me. They gave me a hard time. There's just something inside, man. Like, honestly, to this day, so I'm 30, I'm about to turn 39. My oldest brother is 43. He's the last person on earth I'd fight. And if it, like, and I mean that, like, give me Mike Tyson. Like, I'm not fighting my oldest brother. He's just got something inside that's not right. He's messed up. Once you turn his light switch on, like, no way. And I just got some of that. Like, that's kind of how I survived. That's, I was okay at football, but as soon as I got I got ticked off or one of the coaches yelled at me, you hear a lot of people being like, well, I don't know why coaches are always yelling at kids or whatever. I don't think that's right. Like, well, that was my trigger. Like, as soon as Coach Null or Coach Yox got on to me and challenged me, I'd flip a switch and ready to roll. And so when it came to being fullback, I mean, definitely got to be an athlete at fullback, but a lot of it, man, is running through the hole, finding the right guy, and putting your head on him. So, I mean, that, I was better at that than anything. So, honestly, fullback was probably a more natural position than tight end. So, it wasn't that bad of a transition for me. But that Alabama game was incredible because it was me. I'd never played fullback, and then Trey Smith was the starting tailback because Ronnie, Carnell, everybody was hurt. And so, me and Trey used to laugh. We're like, man, an all-white backfield in the Iron Ball? That's never happened. But, man, Trey, Trey Smith didn't have too much. Most of the blood running through his veins couldn't have just been white. That guy was a stud. He was an athlete.
Yeah, for sure.
I got none of that, but man, that was an awesome game, and that was fun.
Yeah. There's so many things I want to follow up with about what you just said, man. But I want to start. We're gonna get into that Iron Bowl game for sure. I definitely want to dig into some of those memories, but I want to start back a little bit about, just kind of asking you, like, were you a film junkie? Like, were you into like the technical stuff, or was it like, you seem like you're like an effort guy, right? And like sometimes the effort guys, they're just like, man, hey, listen, look, there's a guy right there, I'm just gonna go blow him up, right? He's the closest one to me. It's just heat-seeking missile, right? Or is it like, because you were undersized and you had to kind of use your smarts a little bit more? Talk to me a little bit about kind of the stuff that you used to make sure that you could perform at an elite level.
I definitely, like, if coach told us to watch film and all, like, I did all that, and I listened to the coach. And if I had a time machine, man, I'd go back and go find myself and be like, bro, be a film junkie. Like, look for this, look for that. Like, watch twice as much film as you watched.
Right.
I was kind of just a irresponsible, stupid, 18, 19-year-old kid. Like, I did what I had to do, what I was told to do, and that was kind of it. I didn't do a whole lot more. Back then, man, we were like, I'm eating McDonald's. Like, our diet was terrible. Like, I was way too fat. But like, if I could go back, like, film is one of the things. Like, man, I kind of learned how to study film in the NFL, and I was always thinking, like, man, I wish I had paid more attention to this in college. And the best example is when USC came to Auburn. What year was that?
2003.
So I thought I was hot stuff. I was starting tight end. Got this. Man, that game, literally, we would snap the ball, and the linebacker, I swear to God, he moved every single time, like slant in, slant out, all kind of stuff. I had no idea what was going on during the game. And if you'll remember, we lost that game
23-0.
And I can assure you, I don't know how bad my film was, but I can guarantee it wasn't good because I didn't know, like, the defenses. I didn't know what my guy was going to do. Like, I wasn't picking up anything. And after that game, I did start paying more attention, like, whoa. That's the first game I ever started. And that game kind of taught me, like, hey, maybe, take the stuff a little more serious, listen to coach, like, let's learn the defenses and look at the safeties, and then I can start predicting what's going to happen. Because I was terrible in that game.
So that was kind of like a catalyst awakening moment. Mm-hmm. At what point did in that process of maturation did you start to say to yourself that maybe you could have a pro career, right? Because you feel like I'm the underdog kind of guy, whatever. Mm-hmm. You have this moment at this USC game where you're like, man, I don't know what the heck's going on here. But like, when did it become like, you know what? I think maybe I could do this, like, with my life at some point in time.
There's complete honesty. In high school, I didn't think a whole lot about college football. I was just, hey, man, I'm playing high school football. I'm having fun. I want to win. I want to dominate people. It was kind of the same way in college. Like, and then all of a sudden in high school, I started getting letters from Tennessee and Michigan and all the, like, there was no Under Armour game, but, like, I'm getting letters from her. And I'm like, this might be like a thing. But I just, like, I was the kid playing Little League baseball that my parents were yelling at me because I'm sitting in the outfield, Indian style, trying to look for a 4-leaf clover. And they're like, bro, what are you doing? I'm just like, oh, I'm just kind of aloof. And college is the same way, man. Like, hey, playing in the field would be awesome. And then all of a sudden, after my junior year, all the agents started calling, and I was like, whoa, this is legit. And then I talked to my agent ended up being a guy that he was like the baddest high school football player at my school in Nashville. And, I started talking to him. He's like, hey, is this like a real thing? Like, I feel like I could do it. I feel like I can do anything. And he was like, yeah, bro. He's like, you're on the radar. Let's go. So, honestly, I can't say I was the kid that grew up dreaming of doing it. I'm more so just kind of living the moment. I'm just having fun. I'm doing my thing. I want to be really good at whatever I'm doing. And then, do everything the right way, and the good stuff's going to come. But I'm kind of the aloof, weird kid also in the outfield picking 4-leaf clovers.
Listen, you and I have more in common than I thought before this interview. Now, I was the aloof, weird kid holding the camera at practice while you were doing all that stuff you were doing. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, from my vantage point, seeing you guys go through the routine of practice. You just mentioned Ike had a very good question about watching film and things of that nature. You go through that experience in 2003 where you wake up after the USC game. I think a lot of us woke up after that game, honestly. Yes. We came out of preseason number 6 thoroughly, and I don't know if you remember, but we didn't score a touchdown until Vanderbilt in the third game of that season. So it was a wake-up call for a lot of people. Jarris McIntyre scored the first touchdown of the season. And you come off that experience and you guys go into 2004. Now all the fanfare is died down a little bit, and we're in the back half of the top 25. Can you talk about what it was like transitioning from a season that was a major disappointment? You guys did end it beating Alabama to, an all-time high, what we still believe is the best Auburn team in the last 20 years. You guys didn't get the natty, but you should have.
Yeah.
And, what was it like on that 2004 team, in your role?
So I can talk mostly from kind of the interior, like the offensive line, tight end, running back group, inside line. Like, legends always grow over time and everything is better, we used to walk, to school uphill both ways in the snow, or, like that kind of stuff. But like that team, like the toughness of that team really was next level. And I think you could ask any of the guys on that team. And I'll be honest, I was, I got a job in Tampa, Florida. It was 2011. I went 2011 or 12, I went to an Auburn football practice, and I was with Coach Lawley on the sideline. And I was just kind of watching practice like, man, I was like, Coach Lawley, Coach Lawley's kind of crazy. I don't know if y'all know that.
Yeah, I do.
Philip Lawley, he's next level. But I'm watching practice with him, and I'm like, man, this seems kind of soft. And he was like, he was still an active coach on the staff, and he was like, man, you have no idea. He's like, it ain't nothing like when you guys were here. And it was totally different, man. It was all like, but hype, and like people were waving towels, and like it was all talk. But when I was there in that 2004 team, man, which like Coach Nall was off the line coach, Joe Witt, linebackers coach. Man, it was savage. Yeah. Like we were every day in practice. If we didn't have a good practice, Coach Nall's taking all of us back, and we're doing another 30 minutes of they're just kicking our butt. But again, that's kind of stuff that, like, I don't know if you can do all that nowadays. Kids are more liable to quit or be like, man, this is a joke, which they're not totally wrong, but our toughness was just a whole nother level. I think having that bad season in 2003 and kind of being disappointing, I think, man, when we came out in 2004, man, we were just putting it on people. I mean, we had a couple lucky breaks to stay undefeated, no doubt. But, man, that's about the toughest team, toughest group of guys I've ever been around.
So while we're talking about toughness, you cannot talk about the toughness of that '04 team and not talk about the things that Kevin Yox did to prepare you guys in the weight room. And, Yox, we've interviewed a number of players. Everybody has their Yox story about something. King complains about running to the trees. Devin and AT talked about the boards. AT actually told us a story about how his leg was broken and he thought he was going to get out of a punishment workout because he was not on Yox time on the wrong day. Right.
Yeah, that's 5 minutes ahead. Yox time.
Yox time, right? And so he gave him some Yoxercise for being late. And everybody has their story. Can you tell me what's the nightmare that you still have in 2021 from something Yox had you do?
So the first one was early on. Again, I played football at a small little private high school. I graduated like 60 people. I mean, tiny. We had a pretty badass team. I mean, 6 of our players went to play Division I football, but it was just pretty easy. Like we trounced all the teams, whatever. We worked hard. So I get to Auburn, and we're in the early workouts, and we were running stadiums. So Yox would take us to the stadium, and we had to carry 2.5 pound weights, either 2.5 or 5 pound weights in our hands, and run up the ramps of the stadium. I was like, all right, whatever, cool. Been doing this forever, no big deal. I was in the back of the line talking to, I think, Jake Slaughter or something, like screwing around, like laughing. And, man, Yox laid into me like nobody had ever talked to me like that. But he let me know what's up, and he let me know why we were running and, like, what's expected. And that was kind of a wake-up call for me, like, whoa, this guy is not kidding. And then later that year in redshirt workouts, we were pushing the sled, the 5-man sled, which is, God, it's awful. I don't even know how to describe it to people. I mean, you got 5 people at once. I'm on the end, technically, because I'm a tight end. And so if you're on one of the edges of the sled, you ain't pushing hard, then it's going to start turning. So you're going to get exposed. If you're in the middle, you can take off. Well, he always had me on the edge because I was a tight end. He had 1,000 pounds of weight on it, like from the weight room, and then he would stand on it and blow his whistle. And we were having to push that thing around the practice field. And I actually think I've got a lower back injury still. The doctor said it could have happened when I was little. But when I told them about us pushing that sled all the time, they're like, it's called Par's defect. They're like, it's a chip bone in your lower back. And they're like, it definitely could have happened during that too. And I was like, that would probably make a lot of sense. But man, he laid into me one day, pushed it that day, had 1,000 pounds on it. And I'm talking, so Marcus McNeil's on one side.
Oh, wow.
Right. He's a beast.
Right.
And I was on the other side. So I'm having to keep up with like Marcus McNeil. And so that thing starts turning, and man, Yox laid into me. He said some words that I can't say and questioned my manhood. He did all of it. And I'll never forget that. And I'm like, God, this guy's crazy, but like, I better pick it up. I better figure this out.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's a bit ridiculous. Like, it's not completely necessary for him to act that way. But on the other hand, like, it made us all better. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's the kind of stuff like when your parents do something to you, you're like, man, come on. And then now that I'm a parent, I'm doing the same stuff to my kids, and I'm like, man, I totally get it.
Yeah, right.
They were doing it for us.
You have just watched part 1 of the War Rapport's interview with former Auburn tight end Cooper Wallace. Like and subscribe for more content just like this, and stay tuned for part 2.